The rain came down like a punishment. Verity stood in the entrance hall of Ashworth Manor, water streaming from her traveling cloak, pooling on the marble floor she had walked across 1,000 times as the Duchess of Thornhaven. 2 years of marriage. 2 years of learning to love a man who had married her for alliance and stayed for something neither of them had expected. And now, Cassius was looking at her like she was a stranger. "You need to leave," he said. His voice was flat, cold. Nothing like the voice that had whispered her name in the darkness of their bedchamber just 3 weeks ago. Nothing like the man who had traced the curve of her spine and told her she was the only thing in his life that felt real. "I do not understand." She hated how small her voice sounded. "Cassius, please, tell me what I have done. What you have done." He laughed, but there was no warmth in it. "You exist, Verity. That is what you have done. You exist in my house, in my life, in my every waking thought, and I cannot breathe for it." The words should have been romantic. They were not. They were spoken like an accusation, like a disease he needed to cure. "That is marriage," she said, stepping toward him. "That is love." Love. He turned away, shoulders rigid beneath his tailored coat. "I never asked for love. I asked for a wife who would manage my household and bear my heirs. I did not ask for this." This. As if what had grown between them was something shameful, something unwanted. Verity felt something crack in her chest. "You are lying. I do not know why, but you are lying. 3 weeks ago you held me like I was precious. You said my name like a prayer. 3 weeks ago I was a fool. Cassius, enough." He spun back to face her, and she saw it then, a flicker in his eyes that did not match his words. Pain, fear, desperation. But his jaw was set like iron, and his voice was merciless. "I have arranged for a carriage to take you to your family's estate in Wiltshire. Your things will be sent separately. You will tell anyone who asks that you are visiting your ailing mother." "My mother is not ailing." "Then she will become ailing. A convenient fiction to explain your absence from society." "My absence?" Verity's hands trembled. "You are sending me away. After 2 years. After everything. I am doing what must be done." "Why?" He did not answer. Just stood there, carved from marble, watching her with those dark eyes that had once held such tenderness. Verity thought of the secret she carried. The one she had discovered just 4 days ago, confirmed by the physician who had attended her in private. The reason she had rushed back from visiting her cousin in Bath. The news she had been so desperate to share. She was with child. His child. Their child. The heir he had just said he wanted. But looking at him now, at this stranger wearing her husband's face, the words died in her throat. She could not give him this. Not when he was throwing her away like rubbish. Not when he was looking at her with such deliberate cruelty. If he did not want her, he did not deserve to know. "Very well," she said quietly. A flicker of surprise crossed his expression. Perhaps he had expected her to fight harder. "Good. Let him wonder. Let him question. Let him lie awake at night asking himself why she had surrendered so easily." "The carriage is waiting," he said. "In this storm. The roads are passable. And if they are not? If the carriage overturns? If I am hurt?" For just a moment, one fraction of a heartbeat, his mask slipped. She saw terror in his eyes, real, genuine terror at the thought of her harm. And then it was gone, replaced by that terrible coldness. "You will be fine," he said. "You are always fine. It is one of your most irritating qualities." She laughed. She could not help it. Even now, even as he destroyed everything they had built, he managed to sound like the man she had married. The one who complained about her optimism while secretly basking in it. The one who pretended to be annoyed by her laughter while doing everything in his power to cause it. "Goodbye, Cassius," she said. She did not wait for his response, did not wait for the footman to bring her cloak or the maid to fuss over her wet hair. She simply turned and walked out into the rain, climbed into the waiting carriage, and let the darkness swallow her whole. Only when the carriage jolted forward, only when the lights of Ashworth Manor disappeared behind the sheets of rain, did she let herself break. Her hand pressed against her stomach, still flat, still holding its secret. "I will protect you," she whispered to the life inside her. "Whatever he has done, whatever madness has taken him, I will protect you. You will never know this pain. You will never doubt that you are wanted." The rain hammered against the carriage roof like fists. Verity closed her eyes and let herself remember the man Cassius had been before. The way he looked at her across the breakfast table, like she had invented the sunrise. The way he held her hand during boring society events, thumb-tracing circles on her palm. The way he made love to her, like she was a revelation, like every time was the first time, like he could not quite believe she was real. Something had changed. Something had broken him. She did not know what, but she knew this was not the real Cassius. The real Cassius would never send her away in a storm. The real Cassius would never look at her with such practiced cruelty. But the real Cassius wasn't here. This cold stranger had taken his place, and Verity was alone in the rain, carrying his heir, with nowhere to go but away. The carriage shuddered through the storm, and she pressed her hand harder against her stomach, making a silent vow. She would survive this. She would raise this child. And if Cassius Ashworth, Duke of Thornhaven, ever came looking for what he had thrown away, she would make him earn every single moment of her forgiveness, if she ever forgave him at all. 4 months later, Verity stood in the garden of Hartfield House, watching the first frost settle on the roses. Her hand rested on the swell of her belly. Visible now. Undeniable. The secret she had carried from Ashworth Manor had grown into something she could no longer hide, and she found she did not want to. This child was hers. Whatever Cassius had done, whatever poison had infected his mind, this child was innocent of it, and Verity refused to treat her pregnancy as something shameful. "You will catch cold." She turned to find her brother Hadrian approaching, his expression caught between concern and exasperation. At 32, he had inherited their father's estate and their mother's tendency to worry. He had not questioned her arrival 4 months ago, soaked and sobbing. He had simply opened the door, wrapped her in blankets, and waited until she was ready to explain. She had never fully explained. "The cold feels good," she said. "The baby seems to like it. She has been quiet this morning." She? Or he? I do not know, but she feels right. Hadrian moved to stand beside her, looking out at the frozen garden. "A letter arrived this morning, from London." Verity's chest tightened. "From him?" "No, from Lady Viola Ashworth, his sister." That was unexpected. Verity had always liked Viola, a sharp-tongued widow who had never quite approved of her brother's cold demeanor. They had become friends during Verity's time as Duchess, bonding over their shared impatience with society's ridiculous expectations. What does she want? She wants to visit. She says she has news that cannot be committed to paper. News about Cassius? Hadrian hesitated. She does not say, but I imagine it must be. Verity turned away, watching her breath mist in the cold air. 4 months of silence. 4 months of waiting for an explanation that never came. 4 months of telling herself she did not care while crying herself to sleep every night. I do not want to see her. Verity. I do not want to hear about him. I do not want to know what he is doing, who he is seeing, whether he has found some new wife to take my place. You are still his wife. In name only. He made that abundantly clear. Hadrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, carefully, he asked, "Have you considered telling him? About the child?" "No. He has a right to know. He had a right to be a decent husband. He forfeited that right when he threw me out in the rain like a stray dog." Her voice cracked, and she hated it. hated that after 4 months, she still cried over him, still loved him despite everything. I will not give him this, Hadrian. This child is mine. He lost any claim to it when he lost his claim to me. The law would disagree. Then the law is wrong. She knew she sounded childish, knew she was making decisions based on pain rather than reason. But reason had failed her. She had been a reasonable wife, a loving wife, a devoted wife, and it had earned her nothing but a cold dismissal and a carriage ride through a storm. Unreason was all she had left. I will write to Lady Viola, Hadrian said gently. I will tell her you are unwell and cannot receive visitors. She will know it is a lie. Yes, but she will also know not to push. Viola has always been perceptive that way. Verity nodded, grateful for her brother's intervention. She did not have the strength to face anyone from her old life. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. That night, she sat in her room, hands resting on her belly, feeling the flutter of movement that had become her constant companion. The baby was active tonight, restless in a way that reminded her painfully of Cassius. He had never been able to sit still either, always pacing, always moving, and always burning with energy he did not know how to contain. Your father was a fool, she whispered to the curve of her stomach. A brilliant, beautiful fool who threw away the only good thing he ever had. But I will not let his foolishness touch you. I will not let you grow up wondering if you are wanted. I will not let you doubt for a single moment that you are loved. The baby kicked, a sharp flutter against her palm. Verity smiled despite her tears. That is right. We do not need him. We have each other, and that is enough. That will always be enough. But even as she said it, she knew it was a lie. Because somewhere in London, in the house that had been her home, Cassius Ashworth was living his life without her. And she would never stop loving him, no matter how much she wished she could. A knock sounded at her door. Come in. Hadrian entered, his expression strange, troubled in a way she had not seen before. What is it? Another letter arrived, just now, by special courier. From Lady Viola. No. He hesitated, and in that hesitation, Verity felt the ground shift beneath her feet. From the Duke's solicitor. Cassius has initiated legal proceedings. What kind of proceedings? Hadrian's jaw tightened. He wants an annulment, Verity. He's trying to dissolve your marriage entirely. The words hit her like a physical blow. Annulment. Not separation, not informal estrangement, but complete erasure. As if their marriage had never existed. As if she had never been his wife at all. And if the marriage was annulled, what would that make her child? Illegitimate. Stripped of name, title, and inheritance before it was even born. Verity's hand pressed against her stomach, protective, fierce. He cannot do this, she breathed. He is a duke. He can do nearly anything. Not this. Not while I carry his heir. The words were out before she could stop them. Hadrian's eyes widened, understanding dawning. You have to tell him, he said softly. No. Verity, if he knows about the child, he cannot pursue an annulment. The courts would never allow it. If he knows about the child, he will take it from me. Her voice shook. He will claim his heir and leave me with nothing. Is that what you want? Is that the protection you are offering? Hadrian had no answer, and Verity was left standing in the wreckage of her life, carrying a child who might save her or destroy her, with no way to know which until it was too late. She had not always loved him. Verity remembered the first time she had seen Cassius Ashworth, Duke of Thornhaven, at the Whitfield Ball 2.5 years ago. He had been standing near the window, surrounded by admirers he seemed determined to ignore, looking as if he would rather be anywhere else on earth. She had thought him arrogant, cold, precisely the sort of man she had no interest in knowing. Then he had noticed her watching and raised one eyebrow in a silent challenge. She had blushed, looked away, and spent the rest of the evening pretending he did not exist. The next morning, he had called on her father. "I wish to court your daughter," he had said, with all the romance of a man ordering breakfast. "Our families would benefit from the alliance, and she seems intelligent enough not to bore me." Her father, ever pragmatic, had been delighted. Verity had been furious. "I will not marry a man who speaks of me like livestock," she had announced at dinner. "You will meet with him," her father had replied calmly, "and you will give him a fair chance. That is all I ask." She had agreed, certain that a few conversations with the insufferable Duke would prove her right. She had been wrong, because Cassius Ashworth wasn't what he appeared. Behind the cold facade was a man who listened when she spoke, who asked questions about her opinions rather than dismissing them, who laughed at her jokes with genuine surprise, as if he had forgotten laughter existed. By the end of their first private conversation, she was intrigued. By the end of their third, she was in trouble. "You are not what I expected," she had admitted during a walk through her family's garden. "Neither are you," he had replied, and there was something in his voice that made her pulse quicken. "I expected a simpering society miss who would agree with everything I said. Instead, I find a woman who argues with me about trade policy and tells me my opinions on poetry are, and I quote, tragically uninformed." They are tragically uninformed. You dismissed Wordsworth as sentimental drivel. Because it is sentimental drivel. It is beautiful. It is mawkish nonsense dressed in pretty language. She had stopped walking, turning to face him with her hands on her hips. "And what do you consider good poetry, Your Grace? Dry recitations of military history? Tedious catalogues of classical references?" He had watched her for a long moment. Then, in a low voice, he had said, "I do not read poetry anymore. I stopped when my mother died. She used to read it to me when I was a boy. Wordsworth was her favorite." The admission had cracked something open between them. "I am sorry," Verity had whispered. "I did not know." "No one knows. I do not speak of her." "Then why are you telling me?" He had not answered, just looked at her with those dark eyes, and she had understood that something had shifted, that this was no longer just an alliance, that whatever existed between them was becoming something neither of them had planned. They were married 6 months later. The wedding was grand, the society event of the season. But Verity barely remembered the ceremony. What she remembered was the wedding night, when Cassius had come to her chamber, with terror poorly hidden behind his aristocratic composure. "I have never," he had started, then stopped. "That is to say, I have, but not with someone I cared about," she had offered. "Yes." She had reached for his hand. "Neither have I. We will figure it out together." And they had. Awkwardly at first, then with growing confidence, then with a passion that had surprised them both. Cassius made love like he did everything else, with intensity and focus and a determination to excel. But underneath the skill was something rawer, needier, a desperation to be close to her that he could never quite put into words. For 18 months, they had been happy. Not perfect, not without arguments, but happy in a way that felt solid, real, built to last. Then 6 months ago, something had changed. It started small. Cassius becoming distant at dinner, disappearing for hours without explanation, looking at her with what might have been grief when he thought she was not watching. She had asked what was wrong. He had said nothing. She had pressed. He had deflected. She had begged him to talk to her, to let her help with whatever was troubling him. He had looked at her with such anguish that her heart had nearly stopped. "You cannot help me," he had said. "No one can." After that, the coldness had grown. The man who had held her every night began sleeping in his study. The man who had told her everything began telling her nothing. The man who had loved her, she was certain of this, had loved her deeply, began looking at her like she was already gone. And then came the rain. The rejection, the carriage ride into darkness. Verity still did not understand what had happened, what she had done wrong, What had broken the man she married and replaced him with that cruel stranger? But lying in her childhood bed, hands pressed against the swell of their child, she made herself stop asking. It did not matter why. All that mattered was what came next. "I loved your father," she whispered to the baby. "I loved him with everything I had, and he threw that love away like it meant nothing. I will not make that mistake again. I will not give my heart to someone who does not want it." The baby shifted, a slow, rolling movement that felt like agreement. "We will build a new life," Verity continued. "A life that does not include him. A life where we are happy and whole and complete, without the Duke of Thornhaven and his inexplicable cruelty." She almost believed it. But that night, she dreamed of Cassius as he used to be, laughing in the garden, reading to her by firelight, tracing her face with his fingertips like he was memorizing her features. "I love you," Dream Cassius whispered. "I will always love you." She woke with tears streaming down her face, and she knew, with terrible certainty, that no matter how hard she tried, no matter how many walls she built, she would never stop loving him. Some wounds never healed. Some loves never died. And some secrets, like the child growing in her womb, could not stay hidden forever. The package arrived on a Tuesday. Verity was sitting in the morning room, pretending to read, while actually watching the rain streak down the windows, when Hadrian appeared in the doorway holding a wooden box. "This came for you," he said, his tone careful. "From London." Her heart stopped. From his solicitor? "No, there is no return address, but the seal." He hesitated. "It bears the Thornhaven crest." Verity gazed at the box like it might bite her. 5 months of silence. 5 months of nothing but cold legal documents and threats of annulment. And now this. "Open it," she said. "I cannot." Hadrian set the box on the table and lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a book. Leather-bound, well-worn, clearly old. And beneath it, a single sheet of paper covered in handwriting she knew as well as her own. Her husband's handwriting. "What does it say?" she whispered. Hadrian unfolded the letter, scanned it, and his expression shifted into something she could not read. "He writes that this belonged to his mother. It is her personal copy of Wordsworth's collected poems, the one she used to read to him as a child." Hadrian looked up. "He says he wants you to have it, that you would appreciate it more than he ever could." Verity's hands trembled as she reached for the book. The leather was soft, worn smooth by years of handling. When she opened it, she found annotations in the margins. A woman's elegant script, commenting on favorite passages, marking lines that moved her. Cassius's mother, the woman he never spoke of, the loss that had shaped him into the guarded man she had married. And he had sent her this, his most precious possession, the thing he had kept hidden from everyone, even her. "Why?" she breathed. "Why would he send this?" "There is more," Hadrian said gently, "at the bottom of the letter." She took the paper from him, hands shaking, and read the final lines. "I have no right to ask anything of you. I have no right to even write your name. But I cannot let you believe that what existed between us meant nothing. It meant everything. You meant everything. And I am sorry. I am so deeply, unforgivably sorry for what I have done. Do not write back. Do not try to understand. Just know that I loved you. I love you still. And sending you away was the only way I knew to keep you safe. Yours, in whatever way you will still have me. Cassius." The letter fell from her fingers. Keep her safe. From what? From whom? What danger could possibly justify destroying their marriage, breaking her heart, threatening to annul everything they had built? "He is lying," she said, but her voice wavered. "This is manipulation. He is trying to confuse me." "Is he? He must be. Why else would he send the annulment papers, and this in the same month? It makes no sense." "Perhaps," Hadrian said slowly. There are things happening that we do not understand. Things he cannot explain. Then he should explain them. Verity's voice cracked. He should come here and face me and tell me the truth instead of sending cryptic letters and precious books and expecting me to simply forgive him. Would you? Forgive him? She did not answer. Could not answer. Because the truth was complicated and painful, and she did not want to examine it too closely. That night, she sat in bed with the book of poetry in her lap, reading the annotations Cassius's mother had left behind. Little notes about beauty and loss and the terrible fragility of happiness. One passage was underlined 3 times, the ink heavy with emphasis. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. Strength in what remains behind. Verity's hand moved to her belly, where the baby shifted and turned. Perhaps your grandmother was wise, she whispered. Perhaps there is strength to be found. But I don't know if I am strong enough to find it. The baby kicked, hard and insistent. And despite everything, despite the pain and the confusion and the fear, Verity smiled. Lady Viola Ashworth arrived without warning on a gray morning in March. Verity was in the garden, wrapped in a thick shawl against the lingering winter chill, when the carriage appeared on the drive. She recognized the crest immediately. Thornhaven. But it was not Cassius who emerged. Viola descended with her usual grace, her sharp eyes scanning the grounds until they found Verity standing among the dormant rose bushes. Something flickered across her face, relief perhaps, or determination. Do not run, Viola called out. I have traveled 4 days to speak with you, and I will not be denied. I didn't invite you. No. You ignored my letters and refused my visits, and generally behaved as though I had ceased to exist. Viola approached, her gaze dropping to Verity's belly, now impossible to hide beneath even the most generous shawl. Though I see now why you were so determined to avoid me? Verity's hand moved instinctively to cover the swell. This is none of your concern. It is absolutely my concern. That is my brother's child, my niece or nephew, the future heir to Thornhaven. Viola stopped a few feet away, her expression softening. And you are my friend, Verity. Or you were. I would like to be again, if you will let me. Your brother sent me away in the rain like a disgraced servant. I know. He is trying to annul our marriage. I know that too. Viola's jaw tightened, and I am here to tell you that you must not let him. Verity watched her with guarded eyes. What? The annulment. You must fight it. You must refuse to cooperate, hire your own solicitors, and do whatever is necessary to stop it from proceeding. Why would you help me against your own brother? Because my brother is a fool. Viola's voice cracked, the first sign of emotion breaking through her composure. A noble, self-sacrificing, utterly idiotic fool who believes he is protecting everyone by destroying himself. And you, and apparently his unborn child. The words hung in the cold air between them. Protecting us from what? Verity demanded. He said the same thing in his letter, that he sent me away to keep me safe. Safe from what, Viola? What is he not telling me? Viola hesitated, glancing back toward the house as though checking for listeners. Not here. Inside. Where we cannot be overheard. They retreated to the small parlor at the back of the house, the one Verity used when she wanted privacy. Hadrian appeared in the doorway, saw Viola, and raised an eyebrow at his sister. It is all right, Verity said. She is here to help. Apparently. I am here to tell you the truth, Viola corrected. What you do with it is your choice. She settled into a chair, arranging her skirts with the practiced ease of a woman who had spent her life in society. Then she looked up at Verity, with eyes that held too much knowledge. 6 months ago, my brother received a letter. I do not know its exact contents, but I know it came from a man named Radcliffe Crane. The name may mean nothing to you, but it should. Crane was our father's solicitor. He handled all the family's legal matters, including several that were less than legitimate. Less than legitimate? Our father was not a good man, Verity. He was ruthless, manipulative, and entirely without conscience. He built the family fortune through methods that would not survive scrutiny. When he died, we thought his secrets died with him. Viola's voice hardened. We were wrong. Verity's pulse quickened. What does this have to do with Cassius sending me away? Crane has been blackmailing my brother. He possesses documents that could destroy our family, evidence of our father's crimes that would result in scandal, disgrace, possibly even criminal prosecution. But Cassius was not involved in those crimes. He was a child when your father was alive. It does not matter. The sins of the father, as they say. If Crane releases those documents, the Ashworth name will be ruined. Cassius will lose everything. His title, his estates, his standing in society. Viola paused, and anyone connected to him will be destroyed as well. The implication hit Verity like a blow. He sent me away to protect me from the scandal. Yes, he is pursuing an annulment, so that when the truth comes out, I will not be tainted by association. Yes. And he did not tell me any of this because he is a proud, stubborn, impossibly noble man who would rather break your heart than watch you suffer for his family's sins. Viola leaned forward. He loves you, Verity, more than I have ever seen him love anything. And he is trying to save you the only way he knows how, by cutting you loose before the storm arrives. Verity sank into the nearest chair, her mind reeling. All this time, all these months of pain and confusion and rage. And the truth was that Cassius had been trying to protect her, badly, wrongly, in the most hurtful way possible, but trying nonetheless. Why are you telling me this? She asked. You could have let me believe he was simply cruel. Because the annulment will not protect you. Not really. The gossip will follow you regardless. And my brother is destroying himself, trying to carry this burden alone. Viola's eyes glistened. He has stopped eating, stopped sleeping. He wanders the halls of Ashworth Manor like a ghost, and the staff whisper that he has gone mad with grief. Grief for what? For you. Viola's voice broke. For the life he threw away, for the wife he loved and lost. He does not know about the child, Verity. If he knew, it would kill him. Or perhaps it would save him. I do not know which. The baby shifted, a slow rolling movement that seemed to echo Verity's churning emotions. What do you want me to do? She asked in a low voice. Fight. Fight the annulment. Fight Crane. Fight my brother's idiotic nobility. Viola reached out, gripping Verity's hands. Come back to London. Confront him. Make him see that his sacrifice is pointless if it costs him everything that matters. And if he refuses to listen, then make him listen. Viola's grip tightened. You are carrying his heir, Verity. That changes everything. That gives you power he cannot ignore. Power. The word felt strange on her tongue. For months, she had felt powerless, abandoned, cast aside. But she was not powerless. She was carrying the future of the Ashworth line. And if Cassius wanted to throw away their marriage, he would have to do it while looking her in the eye. I need time, she said, to think. Do not take too long. The annulment proceedings resume in 3 weeks. If you do not act before then, it may be too late. Viola left that evening, but her words remained, and Verity lay awake all night, one hand on her belly, the other clutching the book of poetry Cassius had sent her, trying to decide whether to fight for a man who had broken her heart to save her. Verity arrived in London on a day that threatened rain. The irony was not lost on her. Rain had driven her away from this city. Rain had marked the end of her marriage, and now she was returning under gray skies, swollen with Cassius's child, prepared to fight for what he was so determined to destroy. Hadrian had insisted on accompanying her. You should not face this alone, he had said. and she had been too tired to argue. They took rooms at a respectable hotel, rather than attempting to reclaim her place at Ashworth Manor. Verity was not ready for that confrontation. Not yet. First, she needed to understand exactly what she was fighting. The meeting with Crane was arranged through Viola, who had returned to London ahead of them and done the necessary groundwork. He is a snake, Viola had warned, but snakes can be charmed, or defanged. Radcliffe Crane received them in his offices near the Inns of Court. He was a small man, neat and precise, with the kind of forgettable face that served well in his profession. His eyes, however, were sharp, calculating. They swept over Verity's figure with undisguised interest. "The Duchess of Thornhaven," he said smoothly. "Or should I say, the former Duchess. I understand the annulment is proceeding apace. That is what I am here to discuss." "Indeed," he gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. You must be tired. Traveling in your condition cannot be comfortable." She remained standing. "I will not be here long enough to require comfort." A flash of surprise crossed his eyes. "Very well. What is it you wish to discuss?" "The documents you hold over my husband's head. I want to know exactly what they contain. That is confidential information." "Then let me tell you what I already know." Verity stepped closer, and she saw Crane's composure waver slightly. "I know you are blackmailing the Duke. I know you possess evidence of his father's crimes, and I know you have used this leverage to control my husband for the past 6 months. Control is a strong word. What word would you prefer? Manipulate, extort, destroy?" Crane's smile did not reach his eyes. "The Duke and I have an arrangement, one that benefits us both." "It benefits no one but you." Verity's voice hardened. "My husband has destroyed his marriage, abandoned his wife, and is attempting to annul a union that produced an heir, all because you have convinced him there is no other way. There is no other way. The documents I possess would ruin him, would ruin you as well, had you remained connected to his name." "Then release them." Crane blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "Release the documents. Whatever crimes the old Duke committed, my husband was not part of them. He was a child. Society will see that. They will see a man being punished for his father's sins, and they will rally to his defense. You underestimate the cruelty of society, and you underestimate the power of an heir." Verity placed her hand on her belly. "I am carrying the next Duke of Thornhaven. Whatever scandal you think you can create, it will not erase this child's claim. It will not destroy a lineage that stretches back centuries. The Ashworths will survive your petty blackmail. They have survived worse." For the first time, Crane looked uncertain. "The Duke does not know about the child," he said slowly. "No, because I didn't trust him with the knowledge. But I trust him now, and I will tell him everything when I see him tonight." "You think that will change anything?" "I think it will change everything." Verity leaned forward. "Here is what is going to happen, Mr. Crane. You are going to withdraw your demands. You are going to return every document you possess to my husband, and you are going to disappear from our lives entirely. And if I refuse, then I will make it my personal mission to destroy you." Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of absolute conviction. "I have spent 5 months learning to survive without my husband. I have learned that I am stronger than I ever imagined. And I have learned that a woman with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous creature on earth." She straightened, meeting his eyes without flinching. "You targeted the wrong family, Mr. Crane. The Ashworths may have secrets, but they also have resources. And now they have me." Crane was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, his composure cracked. "You do not know what you are asking," he said. "The old Duke's crimes were not minor offenses. There was fraud, embezzlement, men who died because of his machinations. None of which my husband was responsible for. But he benefited from it. The fortune he inherited was built on blood. Then he will make amends. He will use that fortune to help those who were harmed. He will build something good from his father's poison. Verity's voice softened. That is who my husband is, Mr. Crane. He is a man who takes responsibility for things that are not his fault. A man who would rather destroy his own happiness than see others suffer. You have mistaken his nobility for weakness. It is not. The silence stretched. Then Crane laughed, a hollow sound without humor. You are either very brave or very foolish. I am a wife, I am a mother, and I am done being afraid. She turned and walked out of his office without looking back. In the carriage, Hadrian watched her with something like awe. That was remarkable, he said quietly. That was desperation. It was strength, the kind I have never seen from you before. Verity looked out the window at the gray London streets, her heart pounding. Being abandoned teaches you things, she said. It teaches you that you cannot rely on anyone to save you, that you must save yourself. And Cassius? Will you save him too? She thought of the man who had sent her away in the rain, the man who had broken her heart to protect her, the man who was even now destroying himself out of misguided love. If he will let me, she whispered. If he has not already gone too far. The carriage rolled toward Ashworth Manor, and Verity prepared to face the husband who had thrown her away. Ashworth Manor looked smaller than she remembered, or perhaps she had grown larger, not just in body, but in spirit. The woman who had fled this house 5 months ago had been broken, confused, and desperate to understand what she had done wrong. The woman who stood before it now knew the truth, and the truth had made her dangerous. Are you certain about this? Hadrian asked from beside her. No, but I am doing it anyway. The butler who answered the door was new. He did not recognize her, which meant Cassius had dismissed the old staff, another sign of the destruction he had wrought upon his own life. I am here to see the Duke, Verity said. Tell him his wife has returned. The butler's eyes widened, darting to her belly before he could stop himself. I shall inquire if his grace is receiving visitors. I am not a visitor. I am the Duchess of Thornhaven, and I will see my husband, whether he wishes it or not. She did not wait for permission. She swept past the stammering butler, through the entrance hall she had walked 1,000 times, toward the study where she knew Cassius spent his days. The door was closed. She did not knock. He was standing by the window, silhouetted against the gray afternoon light. He had lost weight. She could see it in the sharp angles of his shoulders, the hollow beneath his cheekbones. His hair was longer than he usually kept it, curling slightly at his collar, and there were shadows beneath his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. He turned when she entered, and she watched his face cycle through a dozen emotions in the space of a heartbeat. Shock, hope, anguish, and then, settling like a mask, that terrible practiced coldness. You should not be here, he said. And yet, here I am. His eyes dropped to her belly, and she saw the moment understanding struck him. Every trace of color drained from his face. His hand shot out, gripping the edge of his desk as though it were the only thing keeping him upright. You are. He could not finish the sentence. With child. Yes, your child. The heir you said you wanted when you married me. How long have you known? Since before you sent me away. The words hit him like a physical blow. He staggered slightly, his composure cracking. You knew, he breathed. You knew, and you did not tell me. You were throwing me out of your house. You were looking at me like I was nothing. Why would I give you this, when you had made it so abundantly clear you wanted nothing from me? I would never. I would have. He stopped, pressing his hand to his face. God. Verity. A child. Your heir. The future Duke of Thornhaven. She stepped closer, forcing him to look at her. The child you are about to make illegitimate with your annulment. The annulment was to protect you. It was to protect yourself from having to face what you had done. No, his voice cracked. It was to save you from the scandal, from Crane, from everything my father left behind. I know about Crane. I know about the documents. I know about all of it. He fixed his gaze on her. How? Viola told me, and then I went to see Crane myself. You what? I confronted him, in his offices. I told him that if he did not withdraw his demands, I would destroy him. Cassius looked like he might be sick. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? What he could have done to you? What could he possibly do that would be worse than what you have already done? The question hung between them, sharp and unforgiving. I was trying to protect you, Cassius said, his voice barely above a whisper. Everything I did was to protect you. You broke my heart. I know. You sent me away in the rain like I was worthless. I know. You let me believe for 5 months that you did not love me, that our marriage meant nothing, that I was nothing. Verity. His voice shattered on her name. I have loved you since the moment you told me my opinions on poetry were tragically uninformed. I have loved you through every day of our marriage, and every day since I sent you away. There has not been an hour, a minute, a single breath where I didn't think of you and wish I could undo what I had done. Then why did you do it? Because I am a coward. The admission seemed to cost him everything. Because I could not bear the thought of you being dragged down by my father's sins. Because I thought, if I cut you loose quickly and completely, you might be able to rebuild your life without me. Find someone who was not tainted by scandal and shame. I do not want someone else. I never wanted someone else. I know that now. Tears glistened in his eyes. I knew it then, too. But knowing something and accepting it are not the same thing. Verity felt her own composure cracking. She had come here to fight, to demand, to force him to face what he had done. But seeing him like this, broken and desperate, and still so painfully in love with her, made it hard to hold on to her anger. You could have told me, she whispered. You could have trusted me with the truth. I was trying to spare you. You were trying to control the situation, to make the decision for both of us without giving me any say. Yes. He did not try to deny it. I was wrong. I see that now. I have seen it every day since you left, lying awake at night remembering the look on your face when I told you to go. You said I was an irritation, something you could not breathe around. I said what I needed to say to make you leave, to make you hate me enough to go without fighting. His voice dropped. I never imagined you would believe me. How could I not believe you? You were my husband. I trusted you completely. I know. He moved toward her, then stopped himself. I know. And I am sorry. I am so profoundly, devastatingly sorry. I do not know how to make you understand the depth of my regret. You could start by stopping the annulment. I will stop it today, this hour. I will write to the solicitors immediately. And Crane? I will deal with Crane. How? He hesitated, and she saw something shift in his expression. Something harder, more determined. The documents he holds expose my father's crimes, but they also expose his own involvement. He was not merely my father's solicitor. He was his accomplice. If those documents become public, they destroy him as well. Then release them. It would mean scandal for our family. Better scandal than slavery to that man's demands. Verity reached out, touching his arm for the first time in 5 months. We can survive scandal, Cassius. We cannot survive being controlled by someone who wishes us harm. He looked down at her hand on his sleeve, and she saw his composure finally, completely shatter. I have missed you, he whispered. Every moment of every day. I have missed you so much, I thought I might die from it. Then stop pushing me away. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard to believe I deserve to have you back. You do not deserve it. Her voice was gentle but honest. You broke my trust. You made decisions that were not yours to make. You hurt me in ways I am still discovering. I know. But I love you anyway." The words came out before she could stop them. God help me. I love you anyway, and I'm tired of being apart. I'm tired of protecting myself from a man. I want to protect me instead. His breath caught. Verity. Do not speak. Not yet. Just. She pressed her hand against his chest, feeling his heart hammer beneath her palm. Just let me be angry for a moment longer. Let me hold on to the hurt before I let it go. He stood perfectly still, barely breathing, as though afraid any movement might shatter the fragile peace between them, and Verity closed her eyes, feeling the baby shift in her belly, feeling her heart crack open despite all her efforts to keep it closed. She had come here to fight, but what she had found was something more complicated than anger. What she had found was a man she still loved, broken by his own choices, desperate to make amends. The question was whether amends were possible, and whether she had the strength to let him try. They did not reconcile that night. Verity insisted on separate rooms, and Cassius did not argue. He understood, perhaps better than anyone, that trust once broken could not be rebuilt in a single conversation. It required time, patience, and a willingness to accept that some wounds might never fully heal. But something had shifted between them. The wall of coldness he had erected was gone, replaced by a raw vulnerability that he could no longer hide. And Verity found herself watching him differently, seeing the man beneath the mask he had worn for so long. Dinner was subdued. Cassius barely touched his food, his eyes following her every movement, as though afraid she might disappear again. Viola had arrived earlier, clearly relieved that her intervention had worked, and she filled the silence with careful conversation about nothing important. After dinner, Verity retired to the rooms that had once been hers. They had not been changed in her absence. Her clothes still hung in the wardrobe, her books still lined the shelves. Even the perfume bottle on her dressing table remained exactly where she had left it. He had kept everything, waiting for her return. The thought made her chest ache. A knock sounded at her door. She knew who it was without asking. "Come in." Cassius entered slowly, hesitantly, as though uncertain of his welcome. He had changed into less formal clothes, and without the armor of his tailored coat, he looked younger, more vulnerable. "I wanted to make certain you had everything you needed," he said quietly. "I am fine. Are you comfortable? The fire is adequate? I can have more wood brought up." "The fire is fine, Cassius." He nodded, but did not leave. Just stood there, hands clasped behind his back, looking at her with such desperate longing that it made her want to weep. "I do not know how to do this," he admitted finally. "I do not know how to be near you without wanting to hold you, without wanting to beg your forgiveness on my knees." "Then perhaps you should try." "Try what?" "Begging." The word hung between them. She had not meant it seriously, but his expression shifted. Without hesitation, he lowered himself to his knees before her. "Cassius, I did not mean." "I am begging," he said, looking up at her with those dark eyes that had haunted her dreams for 5 months. "I am begging you to forgive me. I am begging you to give me another chance. I am begging you to let me spend the rest of my life proving that I am worthy of you. You do not need to. I do. Because words are not enough. Words have failed us. I told you I loved you, and then I sent you away. I told you our marriage meant everything, and then I tried to annul it. My words have been worthless." His voice cracked. "Let me show you instead. Let me prove with actions what I could never prove with words. How? However you want. Whatever you need. I will do anything, Verity. Anything you ask." She looked down at him, this powerful man kneeling at her feet, and felt something crack open in her chest. All the anger, all the hurt, all the carefully constructed walls she had built to protect herself from this exact moment. "Stand up," she whispered. He obeyed, rising slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. "I cannot forgive you yet," she said. I am not ready. There is too much pain, too much confusion. I need time to understand what happened and why. I will give you all the time you need. But I also cannot keep fighting you. I am tired, Cassius. Tired of being angry. Tired of being alone. Tired of pretending I do not still love you despite everything. You still love me? Did you doubt it? I doubted everything, including whether I deserved to breathe the same air as you. She reached up, touching his face for the first time in 5 months. His eyes closed, and she felt him tremble beneath her palm. You hurt me, she said gently. More than I have ever been hurt in my life. I know. And I am terrified that if I let you back in, you will hurt me again. I would rather die. That is easy to say. It is the truth. He opened his eyes, and she saw tears streaming down his cheeks. I have spent 5 months dying, Verity. Dying slowly, painfully, from the knowledge of what I had done. If I ever hurt you again, I would not survive it. Do not make promises you cannot keep. I am not making promises. I am stating facts. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing it harder against his face. You are everything to me. You and this child you carry. I would burn the world to the ground to protect you. I would destroy myself 1,000 times over if it meant keeping you safe. That is the problem, she whispered. You keep trying to protect me by pushing me away. But I don't need to be protected from you. Cassius, I need to be loved by you, openly, honestly, without secrets or lies or misguided nobility. Then that is what I will give you. His voice was raw. No more secrets, no more lies, no more decisions made without your knowledge or consent. From this moment forward, you will know everything I know. You will be part of every choice I make. I swear it on my life. She searched his face, looking for any trace of the coldness that had broken her heart 5 months ago. She found none. Only pain and love and a desperate hope that seemed to match her own. Cassius. Yes. She did not know who moved first. Perhaps it did not matter. One moment they were standing apart, and the next, she was in his arms, pressed against his chest, feeling his heart pound against hers. He held her like she was made of glass, like he was afraid she might shatter if he gripped too tightly. His face buried in her hair, breathing her in, his entire body shaking with the force of his emotion. I thought I would never hold you again, he whispered. I thought I had lost you forever. You nearly did. I know. God, I know. She pulled back to look at him, and before she could think, before she could stop herself, she kissed him. It was not gentle, not careful. It was 5 months of longing and pain and desperate need, poured into a single moment of connection. He kissed her back with equal ferocity, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer, as though trying to merge their bodies into one. When they finally broke apart, both gasping for breath, his forehead rested against hers. This does not mean I forgive you, she said shakily. I know. And it does not mean everything is fixed. I know that too. But I am tired of sleeping alone. I am tired of waking up reaching for someone who is not there. His breath caught. What are you saying? I am saying. She took a shaky breath. Stay. Tonight. Just hold me. Nothing more. I am not ready for more. But I need. You need what? To feel safe again. To feel like I'm not alone. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her with infinite gentleness. You will never be alone again, he promised. Whatever happens, whatever comes next, I will be beside you. For the rest of my life, if you will let me. She closed her eyes, letting herself sink into his warmth. Tomorrow, there would be difficult conversations. Tomorrow, there would be Crane to deal with, and solicitors to dismiss, and a scandal to weather. Tomorrow, she would have to decide whether she truly believed his promises, or whether she was setting herself up for another heartbreak. But tonight, she was in her husband's arms. Tonight, she was home. and for the first time in 5 months, Verity fell asleep without tears. She woke alone. For a terrible moment, Verity thought she had dreamed it all. The confrontation, the confession, the kiss. But the pillow beside her still held the impression of Cassius's head, and when she pressed her hand against it, she found it still warm. He had been here. He had held her all night. And now he was gone. She found him in his study, standing before the fireplace with a letter in his hand. His expression was grim, and when he looked up at her entrance, she saw something in his eyes that made her stomach clench. "What has happened?" "Crane." He held up the letter. "He has decided not to wait for my response. He released the documents this morning. They will be in every newspaper by afternoon." The words hit her like a physical blow. All of them. All of them. My father's crimes laid bare for all of London to see. His jaw tightened. By tomorrow, the Ashworth name will be synonymous with fraud and corruption. And Crane? He has reportedly fled to the continent. He knew the documents implicated him as well, so he decided to destroy me and then vanish before the consequences caught up with him. Verity moved toward him, but he stepped back. The movement was small, almost imperceptible, but she felt it like a door slamming shut. "Cassius, you should leave." His voice was flat again, controlled. "Take your brother and return to Wiltshire. When the scandal breaks, you need to be as far from me as possible. We discussed this. I am not leaving." That was before, he gestured at the letter, before it became real, before the consequences became inevitable. "Verity, you do not understand what is coming. The newspapers will be brutal. Society will turn against us completely. Anyone associated with the Ashworth name will be destroyed. I am your wife. I am already associated with your name. Which is why you need to distance yourself now, while there is still time. No. Verity. I said no." She stepped closer, forcing him to meet her eyes. "I did not come back here to run away at the first sign of trouble. I came back to fight. Beside you. As your partner. This is not a fight we can win. Every fight can be won. You taught me that. I taught you nothing. I lied to you. I manipulated you. I broke your trust in ways that can never be repaired. And then you begged my forgiveness. And I chose to give you a chance." Her voice hardened. "Do not make me regret that choice by turning back into the cold, distant man who sent me away 5 months ago." He held her gaze, and she saw the war playing out behind his eyes. The urge to protect her by pushing her away, battling against the knowledge that pushing her away was what had nearly destroyed them both. "I do not know how to let you stay," he admitted, his voice low. "I do not know how to watch you suffer for my family's sins. Then learn, because I am not going anywhere. The scandal will pass. Everything passes eventually, and when it does, we will still be here, together, with our child." His eyes dropped to her belly, and she saw his composure crack. "Our child," he repeated, as though the words were still foreign on his tongue. I still cannot believe you are. Carrying your heir, yes. And this child deserves to know its father, deserves to grow up in a house where both parents are present, where love is not something hidden or denied or sacrificed for the sake of reputation. What kind of life can I give a child? After this, what kind of legacy? A better one than your father left you." Verity took his hands, feeling them tremble in her grip. "You are not him, Cassius. His choices are not your choices. His sins are not your sins. And our child will know that. Will know that their father was a man who made mistakes but owned them, who faced consequences rather than running from them, who chose love over pride. You make it sound simple. It is simple. The hard part is believing we deserve it." He was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lifted her hands to his lips and kissed them. "If I fail," he whispered, "if I cannot protect you from what is coming, then we will fail together, and we will rebuild together. That is what marriage is, Cassius. Not perfection. Not protection. Just two people choosing each other, over and over, no matter what. He closed his eyes, and she saw a tear slip down his cheek. I do not deserve you. Perhaps not. But you have me anyway. When he opened his eyes again, something had shifted. The fear was still there, the grief, the guilt. But beneath it all, she saw something else. Hope. Fragile, uncertain, but present. The newspapers will publish this afternoon, he murmured. By tonight, we will be the most notorious family in London. Then we'd better eat a good breakfast. Notoriety requires energy. He laughed. Actually laughed. A broken, disbelieving sound, but a laugh nonetheless. You are impossible, he said. You love it. I love you. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. God help me. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anyone. Then stop trying to send me away. Stop trying to protect me from yourself. Just be here. With me. For whatever comes next. I will try. Do not try. Succeed. He held her tighter, and she felt his heartbeat slow. Felt the tension drain from his shoulders. The storm was coming. The scandal would break. Everything they had known was about to change. But they would face it together. And that, Verity realized, was the only thing that truly mattered. The scandal was worse than either of them had imagined. By evening, their names were on every tongue in London. The newspapers had printed lurid headlines about the old Duke's crimes, embellished with speculation about what the current Duke must have known. Invitations were withdrawn. Friends stopped calling. Even the servants looked at them with a mixture of pity and suspicion. Cassius withdrew into himself in the days that followed, not with coldness, but with a kind of grim determination. He spent hours with solicitors, trying to contain the damage, while Verity managed the household and pretended not to notice the whispers that followed her whenever she ventured out. A week after the scandal broke, a visitor arrived. Verity was in the morning room when the butler announced him, a name she did not recognize, Mr. Edwin Huxley, requesting an audience with the Duke and Duchess together. Together? She repeated. Who is he? He did not say, Your Grace, only that his business concerns you both. Cassius appeared behind the butler, his expression guarded. I know the name. Huxley was one of the men my father defrauded. I have been trying to contact him for days. They received him in the study. Edwin Huxley was an older man, perhaps 60, with the weathered face of someone who had known hardship. His clothes were respectable but worn. His eyes held a sharpness that spoke of intelligence and experience. Thank you for seeing me, he said, his voice rough. I know this is not an easy time. You have come to make demands, Cassius said flatly. I understand. My father's crimes cost you dearly. I am prepared to make restitution. You misunderstand me, Your Grace. Huxley settled into a chair, his expression thoughtful. I have not come to make demands. I have come to offer testimony. Testimony? I was one of your father's victims, yes. He defrauded me of my life savings, destroyed my business, and left my family destitute for years. But I was also watching, Your Grace. I know what your father did, and I know what you have done since inheriting his title. Cassius stiffened. And what have I done? You have quietly repaid every family your father harmed. You have funded orphanages, hospitals, schools. You have used your fortune not for personal gain, but to repair the damage your father caused. Huxley's eyes held a calm respect. You are not your father, Your Grace, and I am prepared to tell the world so. Verity's breath caught. You would speak publicly, in support of my husband? I would. And I am not alone. There are others. Dozens of us who have benefited from the Duke's generosity over the past 5 years. We have been talking since the scandal broke, trying to decide what to do. Today, we made our decision. What decision? Cassius asked, his voice strained. "We are going to the newspapers. All of us. We are going to tell them the truth about the current Duke of Thornhaven. That he is nothing like his father. That he has spent years trying to atone for crimes he did not commit. That he is a man of honor and integrity and compassion." Silence fell over the study. Verity watched her husband's face as the words sank in. She saw disbelief give way to hope, then to something deeper. Something she had not seen in him for months. Gratitude. "Why?" Cassius whispered. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because it is the truth, and because good men should not be destroyed for the sins of their fathers." Huxley rose, extending his hand. "You gave my family a second chance, Your Grace. Let us give you one in return." Cassius shook his hand, and Verity saw tears glittering in his eyes. After Huxley left, she found her husband standing by the window, watching the garden where winter was slowly giving way to spring. "You never told me," she said quietly, "about the repayments, the charities, the families you helped. It wasn't something to boast about. It wasn't boasting. It was hiding. Another secret you kept from me." He turned to face her, and his expression was raw. "I was ashamed of my father's legacy, of the fortune I inherited. I wanted to fix it quietly, without drawing attention, without letting anyone know that you were good. I did not feel good. I felt responsible. There is a difference." She moved toward him, taking his hands. "Perhaps. But what matters is that you acted. You could have ignored your father's victims. You could have kept the money and lived comfortably without ever thinking about the harm it caused. Instead, you spent years trying to make amends. It was not enough. It was more than anyone expected." She squeezed his hands. "And it may be what saves us." He looked at her, and she saw hope warring with fear in his eyes. "Do you truly believe that?" "I believe in you," she said simply. "I believe that the man who would secretly repair his father's damage is not the man the newspapers are describing. And I believe that when the truth comes out, society will see it too. And if they do not, then we will build a new life somewhere else. Somewhere the Ashworth name does not carry the weight of scandal." She placed his hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick beneath his palm. "We have everything we need, Cassius. Each other. This child. The rest is just noise." He gazed at his hand on her stomach, feeling the movement of their child, and she watched something break open in his face. "I have wasted so much time," he whispered. "So much time, pushing away the only person who ever truly mattered." "Then stop wasting time. Start living." He pulled her close, holding her as though she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. "I love you," he said against her hair. "I love you, and I am done being afraid. Whatever comes next, I will face it. With you, as your husband, as the father of our child. Promise me." "I promise." And for the first time since the scandal broke, Verity believed that everything might actually be all right. The tide began to turn 3 days later. Huxley's testimony appeared in the morning papers, followed by statements from other families Cassius had helped. One by one, they came forward to tell their stories. The widow, whose mortgage had been quietly paid. The orphanage that had received anonymous funding for years. The businessman whose factory had been saved by a mysterious investor. All of them pointed to the same source, the Duke of Thornhaven, the son who had spent 5 years trying to repair his father's damage. Society, ever fickle, began to reconsider its verdict. Invitations trickled back in. Cautious at first, then more confident, the newspapers that had condemned Cassius began publishing editorials about redemption and the importance of judging a man by his own actions rather than his father's crimes. But Cassius did not seem to notice. He was too focused on Verity. In the 2 weeks since her return, he had been a changed man, attentive without being suffocating, present without being possessive. He asked her opinion on every decision. He told her about every letter, every meeting, and every development in their legal situation. No more secrets, no more unilateral choices, and slowly, carefully, she began to trust him again. "The Whitford ball is tonight," Viola announced one morning over breakfast. "Everyone who matters will be there. It is the perfect opportunity to show society that the Duke and Duchess of Thornhaven are united." Cassius looked at Verity, a question in his eyes. "Do you feel well enough?" he asked gently. "The physician said you should rest." "The physician said I should not run marathons. He did not say I should hide from society like a frightened mouse." "You are 8 months pregnant, and I am perfectly capable of attending a ball." She raised an eyebrow. "Unless you do not want me there." "I want you everywhere. Always." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "I simply do not want to push you beyond your limits." "Then let me decide my limits. I am tired of being managed, Cassius, even with the best of intentions." He nodded, accepting the gentle rebuke. "You are right. I apologize. Accept it. Now, shall we plan our triumphant return to society?" The Whitford ball was everything she had expected. Glittering chandeliers, hundreds of guests, the cream of London society gathered in one place. And every single one of them watched as the Duke and Duchess of Thornhaven entered. Verity felt their eyes like a physical weight, curious, judgmental, waiting to see how the notorious couple would conduct themselves. She squared her shoulders and walked beside her husband, her hand resting on his arm, her head held high. They had barely made it 10 steps before Lady Pemberton herself approached them. An ancient dragon of a woman whose approval could make or break reputations. "Your Grace," Lady Pemberton said, looking Cassius up and down, "you have caused quite a stir." "I apologize for any disruption, my lady." "Do not apologize." Her eyes narrowed. "The truth about your father was long overdue. What matters is what you have done since. And from what I hear, you have done quite a lot. I have tried. Trying is more than most men manage." Her gaze shifted to Verity, taking in her pregnant figure with a knowing look. "And you, Duchess, standing by your husband through scandal. That takes courage." "Or stubbornness," Verity replied. Lady Pemberton laughed, a sharp sound that drew attention from across the room. "I like you. Both of you. You have spine. Society could use more of that." She swept away, and in her wake, the tension in the room shifted. If Lady Pemberton approved, others would follow. It was the way of their world. Cassius turned to Verity, something like wonder in his eyes. "You are magnificent," he murmured. "I am exhausted, but I refuse to let them see it." "Then let me help." He guided her toward a quiet alcove, away from the crush of guests. "Sit here. Rest. I will bring you something to drink. You cannot fetch drinks like a servant. I can do whatever I please. I am a duke." She laughed despite herself. "A scandalous duke. The best kind." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Stay here. I will return in a moment." She watched him navigate through the crowd, accepting greetings and well wishes with a grace she had always admired. He was in his element here, despite the scandal, born to this world, comfortable in its rituals, able to play its games better than anyone. But he had chosen her, over duty, over reputation, over everything society expected of him. He had chosen her. A commotion near the entrance drew her attention, voices raised in argument. She could not see what was happening, but she saw Cassius's expression change, saw him push through the crowd toward the disturbance, and then she heard the voice. Radcliffe Crane. Her blood went cold. She moved without thinking, pushing through the guests, ignoring the protests and gasps as she shouldered past. By the time she reached the entrance hall, Cassius was standing face to face with Crane, his expression murderous. "You should not have come here," Cassius said, his voice deadly calm. "I had no choice." Crane looked disheveled, desperate. Nothing like the composed man Verity had confronted in his offices. The authorities are looking for me. I need money. Enough to disappear properly. You destroyed my family's name, and now you expect me to help you escape. I expect you to protect yourself. Crane's eyes darted around the room, taking in the watching crowd. Because I still have documents, Your Grace. Documents I did not release. Documents that could destroy you personally, not just your father's memory. You are lying. Am I? Crane's smile was vicious. Ask your wife. Ask her what I told her when she visited my offices. Ask her about the things your father did that even she does not know about. Cassius turned to look at Verity, and she saw the question in his eyes. He is bluffing, she said, moving to stand beside her husband. He told me nothing that you have not already confessed. Then you did not listen carefully enough. Crane reached into his coat. Several things happened at once. Cassius stepped in front of Verity, shielding her with his body. Guards moved toward Crane from multiple directions, and Crane's hand emerged, holding not a weapon, but a sheaf of papers. These are the real documents, Crane said wildly. The ones that prove your father murdered his first wife. Your mother, Your Grace. He killed her to marry his mistress and claim her dowry. The words fell like stones into a frozen pond. Cassius went completely still. You are lying, he whispered. I have proof, witness statements, medical records, everything your father tried to destroy. Crane waved the papers. Give me what I want, and they stay buried. Refuse, and the world learns that the Duke of Thornhaven is the son of a murderer. Verity's hand found Cassius's, gripping it tight. It does not matter, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Whatever his father did, Cassius is not responsible. He was a child when his mother died. He's innocent of any crime. Innocent? Crane laughed. He inherited a fortune built on blood. He has benefited from murder his entire life. And he has spent that entire life trying to make amends. Verity's voice rang through the silent hall. He has given away more than he has kept. He has helped hundreds of families. He has proven over and over that he is nothing like his father. Pretty words, but they will not save him from the truth. The truth is that you are a desperate man making desperate threats. Verity stepped forward, putting herself between Crane and her husband. The truth is that you have nothing. Because even if those documents are real, even if the old Duke was guilty of every crime you claim, it changes nothing about who Cassius is now. She turned to face the watching crowd. This is my husband, the father of my child, a man who has made mistakes and owned them, a man who has been tested by scandal and emerged stronger. I am proud to stand beside him. I will always be proud to stand beside him. And anyone who cannot see his worth does not deserve to know him. Silence. Then, slowly, Lady Pemberton began to clap. Others joined her. The applause spread through the hall like wildfire, growing louder and more enthusiastic until it drowned out Crane's sputtering protests. Guards seized him. The documents were confiscated. And Cassius stood in the middle of the chaos, watching Verity like she had hung the moon. You defended me, he whispered. Of course I did. You are mine. He pulled her into his arms, right there in front of everyone, and kissed her with such fierce tenderness that the applause turned to cheers. And Verity knew, finally, that everything was going to be all right. Their daughter was born on a rainy afternoon in April. Verity lay in the great bed at Ashworth Manor, exhausted but triumphant, watching Cassius hold their child for the first time. His hands, so large and capable, cradled the tiny bundle with infinite gentleness. His eyes, those dark eyes that had once held such practiced coldness, were filled with tears. She is perfect, he whispered. Absolutely perfect. She has your nose. Poor child, Verity laughed weakly. Your nose is distinguished. My nose is too large, but on her it will be elegant. He looked up at Verity, and the love in his face made her chest ache. You are remarkable. Have I told you that today? Only 7 times. Then I am behind schedule. He brought the baby to her, settling them both against the pillows so that Verity could hold their daughter, while Cassius held them both. A circle of warmth against the rainy chill outside. We need a name, Verity said, stroking the baby's downy cheek. I was thinking Margaret, after my mother. The words caught Verity by surprise. In all their marriage, Cassius had rarely spoken of his mother, the wounds of her loss, and now the knowledge of how she truly died had made her memory painful to touch. Are you certain? She asked, her voice tender. I am. She deserved better than the life she had, better than the death she suffered. Our daughter will carry her name and prove that something good can come from tragedy. He paused. If you agree, I think it is beautiful. Margaret Ashworth. Maggie, perhaps, when she is small. Maggie. Cassius tested the name on his tongue. Yes, I like that. The baby stirred, making a small sound of contentment, and both of them fell silent, watching her sleep. 9 months ago, Cassius said, his voice barely above a whisper. I sent you away in the rain. I told myself I was protecting you. I told myself I was being noble. In truth, I was being a coward. We have discussed this. I know. But I need to say it again. Because looking at you now, holding our daughter, I cannot believe how close I came to losing everything that matters. Verity reached up, touching his face. But you didn't lose it. We are here. Together. Despite everything. Because of you. Because you refused to give up on me, even when I had given up on myself. He turned his head, pressing a kiss to her palm. I do not deserve you, Verity. I never have. But I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the gift you have given me. You are already worthy. You always were. You just needed to believe it. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. You have taught me that, among many other things. Such as, that love is not weakness, that asking for help is not failure, that a wife who argues about poetry is far more interesting than one who agrees with everything. His smile widened. That Wordsworth is not, in fact, sentimental drivel. You have come a long way. I have had an excellent teacher. Outside, the rain continued to fall. But inside the warm bedchamber, surrounded by firelight and love, it sounded different than it had 9 months ago. Not like punishment, not like ending, like beginning. Do you remember what you said to me? Verity asked. That night when you sent me away? I remember every word. They haunt me. You said you could not breathe for thinking of me, that I existed in your every waking thought. She looked up at him. I hated you for those words. They sounded like an accusation. They were, at the time. He was quiet for a moment. But they were also the truth. I was drowning in my feelings for you, and I did not know how to survive it. Sending you away seemed like the only way to catch my breath. And did it work? No. I stopped breathing entirely. His arms tightened around her. Until you came back. Until you stood in my study with our child in your belly and demanded that I fight for you. That was when I started breathing again. Verity leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her back. No more sending me away, she said softly. Never. Not for any reason. No more making decisions without me. We decide everything together, always. And no more pretending you do not need me. I need you. His voice cracked slightly. More than air. More than light. More than anything I have ever needed in my life. Baby Margaret stirred again, and Verity looked down at the tiny face that combined the best of both of them. Dark eyes like her father, a stubborn set to her chin that was pure Verity. She will be a terror, Cassius observed fondly. She will be magnificent. Both. Definitely both. Verity laughed, and the sound filled the room, warm and bright against the gray rain outside. 9 months ago, she had stood in this house, soaked and heartbroken, watching her husband tell her to leave. She had climbed into a carriage in the rain, carrying a secret she was too wounded to share, believing her marriage was over. Now she lay in their bed, holding their daughter, wrapped in her husband's arms. The scandal had passed. Society had accepted them. Crane was in prison awaiting trial, and the future stretched ahead of them, full of possibility. Cassius? Yes? I love you. He pressed a kiss to her hair. I love you too. More than I have words to express. More than I will ever be able to prove, though I intend to spend the rest of my life trying. The rain fell gently against the windows, and Verity smiled. Some storms destroyed, but some storms cleansed. Some storms washed away the old and made room for the new. She had been sent away in the rain, carrying his air, believing all was lost. Now she was home, safe, loved, and the rain that had once felt like an ending had become something else entirely. A beginning. Their beginning. Together. Thank you for staying with Verity and Cassius until the very end. Their story began with a storm that seemed to destroy everything. But in truth, that storm was the beginning of something new, something stronger, something real. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because there are more stories waiting. More impossible loves, more second chances, more moments that remind us why we believe in happily ever after. Thank you for being here. You are the reason these stories exist.